Welcome to the Big Easy. It's New Orleans, Louisiana, and this city has everything. It's got great food, it's got great people, and of course, it's got great music. Right now, we're inside the world-famous Preservation Hall just before the doors open. Welcome to New Orleans, Louisiana, the Big Easy. The hall was originally built as a private residence in 1750. Between the middle of the 18th century and the beginning of the 21st century, the hall has evolved from the original residence, with time being spent as a tavern, inn, photo studio, and an art gallery. Preservation Hall opened its doors in 1961 and quickly became the worldwide standard bearer for New Orleans jazz music. One of the most popular music venues in the city, it was originally intended to be a sanctuary to protect and honor New Orleans jazz, which had lost much of its popularity to modern jazz and rock and roll. Alan and Sandra Jaffe, the hall's founders, wanted a place where New Orleans musicians could play New Orleans jazz, a style they believed should not disappear. Today, over 50 years later, the hall is still going strong. On any given night, the hall is filled to capacity with locals and visitors alike, ready to hear great music in the close-knit environment that is the hall. The jazz is performed eye to eye with the audience by veteran musicians in their 70s and 80s and younger musicians learning and embracing music that is a true American cultural art form. New Orleans was founded in 1718 by the French as Nouvelle Orleans. In 1722, it was named the capital of French Louisiana. But in 1763, the Spanish took over. During the coming years, the city built a diverse population of immigrant settlers. Then came the Louisiana Purchase from France in 1803, and Louisiana became the 18th state in America on April 30th, 1812. New Orleans is a fabulous food city. You could discuss food here for days. One of the best things to eat is seafood, and especially oysters. Let's dive into the Acme Oyster House on Iberville and check it out. It's Master Shucker Storm and Norman Connerly, here to show us how it's done.
This is what you call a good workout. Who say I got to go to the gym? This is my gym. Pick up these sacks all day. A little bit of stirred muffin. This is what we do every morning. Let's rock.
Acme shucks millions of oysters every year. You can eat them raw, or you can crank it up a little bit and put them on the grill. The char grilled oysters are a great treat. and the perfect appetizer here at Acme. It was once assumed that oysters were only safe to eat in months with the letter R. This, of course, as we now know, is only a myth. You can eat them up all year round. The Louisiana oyster. There's nothing really quite like it. For many people, they're best by the dozen. Cold and salty, with cocktail sauce and crackers, or just a little hot sauce and a cold beer. But for every traditional oyster preparation, there's one less expected and just as tasty. Now let's rejoin Norman at the Oyster Bar.
See, the fun starts when we open up. That's when the fun starts.
Jonathan Swift, the Irishman from Kilkenny, is quoted as having said, "He was a bold man that first ate an oyster." While this may be true, it's also true that oysters are known to be a health benefit.
Oh, check that out. Like it
Oysters are considered the healthiest when eaten raw on the half shell. You can also eat them smoked, boiled, baked, fried, roasted, stewed, canned, steamed, broiled, or even pickled. Oysters are excellent sources of several minerals, including iron, zinc, and selenium, which are often low in the modern diet. They're also an excellent source of vitamin B12. And for an interesting cocktail, try the famous prairie oyster or an oyster shooter. It's easy to make the oyster shooter. Here are the ingredients. More than a third of the nation's oysters come from Louisiana waters, so it's no surprise that these oysters are showing up in great recipes and celebrated kitchens from coast to coast. So when in New Orleans, get out there and enjoy the oyster. When you do get to Acme, you're sure to meet Norman there. Next up on the Brewshow, a great local brewery.
I'm Kirk Coco from Nola Brewing. Welcome to New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is a city that really just incorporates everything that's great about America and American brewing and beer, and also brings in the old world of Europe and especially France and Spain. And what we're able to do here is finally take brewing, which was very traditionally American lager in New Orleans, and incorporate all the wonderful styles that come from Europe, the west coast of America, New England, and throughout the world, incorporate them into one brewing establishment here in the city. We're very proud of that. Our first beer, our blonde ale, was a traditional American blonde ale that we put together right when the company started. We used 5 different malts, and we used 2 hops, an American ale yeast, and what you get is a very malty, sweet beer with a slight hoppy aroma, but not strong on the hops, and a very, very balanced finish. Our other beer that we started off with was our Nola Brown Ale. And you see it here, it's an extremely dark brown color. The taste itself is an extremely light tasting beer. It is what's called an English mild brown ale, 4% alcohol. Inside, what you find are 7 different malts. A great brown ale for drinking in the middle of summer in New Orleans when it's 95 degrees with 100% humidity. Our third beer that we started, and it was originally going to be a seasonal, was our IPA, Hopatulis. This is a 6 malt IPA with 6 hops as well. Then after 3 weeks of the brew process, 3 weeks of fermentation. We add 2 different hops and dry hop the beer for an additional 3 weeks. The 4th beer that we have here is something that's not on the market, but it's our Christmas ale. And I was actually just pouring one to enjoy myself right after the holidays here. And what you have is a great 5 malt Christmas ale. You see it's a good amber reddish color. A little spiciness to the taste that comes from the yeast that we used. And then it is also extremely hopped. My brewmaster, Hopzilla is his nickname, loves to put hops in a beer. New Orleans, among all the cities in America, is probably the most international feeling when you come to it. You're never really sure if you're sitting in Germany or Spain or France or in New Orleans when you're here. It all depends on the courtyard or the restaurant or the bar that you're in at the time. We want to bring that diversity to beers in New Orleans, which was lacking for a long time. We think we've done that.
Up next, a great New Orleans gumbo recipe. Over in the Garden District, you'll find the Avenue Pub. They've got one of the best beer menus in town, plus some great food.
Hi y'all, I'm Craig Gieske at Janita's at the Avenue Pub in New Orleans, Louisiana. And here on St. Charles Avenue today, we're going to make a duck and andouille gumbo. We're going to start the gumbo with the Cajun Trinity. And the Cajun Trinity is always made up of an onion, your celery, and green bell pepper. Usually there's some garlic added, but we'll do that a little later on in the process. What we're going to do is move on to the roux now that we've got the vegetables cut. And the roux is very simple, but the problem is it shows you the great gap between things that are simple and things that are easy. The roux is very simple because it's only 2 ingredients, but to do it right is going to take some practice. You're going to have to resign yourself to stirring this roux for a good half hour or so. The roots of gumbo go back a long way. I think most people agree that it was originally an African dish or from an African dish. Here in New Orleans, so much of the gumbo is a seafood base. The roux goes into the pot, then you have to follow with all your vegetables and make sure everything down in this pot is completely covered by that roux. Once everything is done and covered, then you have to get your chicken stock and build this roux up very, very slowly. You'll note I haven't put any salt in here. Your stock is usually going to have enough salt in it. Now we're going to start to add our real flavor. We're going to add a little bit of garlic powder. The key ingredient will be the filet powder. This is a ground sassafras root, and you want to cover most of the top of the gumbo just with a very thin layer. And of course you've got to add a little bit of personality to it with some cayenne pepper, but don't over add it. Make sure it's well mixed. Now we're going to add our andouille sausage. Andouille is a sausage that is a rougher cut. And the last thing we're going to add here will be our duck. This is a pulled duck leg and thigh meat that I pre-did, but you can do it with chicken. If you're going to use the chicken, I would use a chicken thigh meat. Make sure it's pre-cooked and it drops right in here. Let's taste it one more time to make sure everything is being blended properly and the roux is holding together. That's good, baby doll. That's good gumbo. And here we've got the gumbo à Cajun from Janita's at the Avenue Pub in New Orleans, Louisiana. Come see it.
The Avenue Pub. It's located on the historic St. Charles Avenue streetcar line between stops 11 and 12. They never close. I mean, they never close. They're open 24/7, 365 days a year. Next up, it's hurricane time on the Brewshow. One of the best and most famous bars in the French Quarter is Pat O'Brien's. Here's bartender Steven, and he'll show us how to make the hurricane.
Hi, I'm Steven. I work at Pat O'Brien's in New Orleans on St. Peter Street. And today we're going to be making our world's famous hurricane, which was invented here. This is our famous hurricane glass. I'll show you how to make a hurricane now. Fill it with ice.
Officially opened in 1933 after Prohibition, Pat O'Brien's has been rocking good ever since.
You had 4 ounces of Pat O'Brien's hurricane rum.
The hurricane was first created during World War II when whiskey was scarce and rum was plentiful.
And then we have our Pat O'Brien's hurricane mix, which get equal parts, 4 ounces.
The fruity red concoction was first poured into a glass shaped like a hurricane lamp, and there you have it.
You had your orange and cherry, 2 straws. Welcome to New Orleans, and this is our hurricane.
That will definitely set you free. New Orleans is a music town, one of the greatest in America. Jazz was literally born here and can be considered one of the United States' most significant cultural exports. The city's music has also been influenced by Arcadiana, making it the home of Cajun and Zydeco music. And let's not forget the Delta blues direct from the mouth of the Mississippi. New Orleans is world famous for its indigenous food, which is both distinctive and influential. When you come here, you'll find the etouffee, jambalaya, and gumbo absolutely irresistible. From centuries of amalgamation of the local Creole and French cuisines, New Orleans food has developed. Local ingredients range from French, Spanish, and Italian to African, Native American, Cajun, and a little bit of Cuban as well.
Chateau Latour, here at Antoine's, $1,500 a bottle.
Of course, there are plenty of places to splurge on some of the finest food in the country at restaurants like Antoine's. Here are some important festival dates. Mardi Gras in early February with Fat Tuesday the day before Ash Wednesday, and Jazz Fest, held on the last weekend in April and the first weekend in May. Home to the 2009 Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints, there was an old saying that when the Saints win a playoff game, it'll snow in New Orleans. Well, in 2009, it snowed, and the Saints won it all. I'll leave you now with some great street music and the traditional Sugar Bowl parade held every year. that's our look at the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. It's got great people, great food, and great music. It's also got freshly brewed beer by the Nola Brewing Company. We hope you enjoy the visit, and we'll see you next time on the Brew Show. Cheers! That is delicious.